Today on Voice of the Valleys, like the Canaanites and other groups that used to sacrifice their kids to Baal in the hopes of a good harvest, well, European leaders, particularly the hard left-wing ones, have been sacrificing their native populations in the hope that they will get a nice vote fall in the harvest this year, openly celebrating the Great Replacement, which was once labelled as a racist far-right conspiracy theory. Not only that, if you think that you live in a rural area of the UK, you think you're going to be safe from all of this, make no mistake, the UK government has its eye on you, and a black man has been accused of doing the far-right's bidding by saying that Africans should live in Africa. All that and more today on Voice of the Valleys. Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Voice of the Valleys yet again with your host, friendly neighbourhood far-right, thug always satirical, unless he's not Mr. Judge Cresswell. Hope we're having a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever we are. Really hope so. Apologies, again, not been doing so well with the uploads recently. Just had a few things going on, a couple of scheduling things going on. So anyway, get onto all of that at another time. I'm hoping to do a big, long stream, hopefully, at some point in the near future, probably towards the end of this week, I would imagine, because holy shit, Epstein stuff just dropped in quite big ways. Vindication for a lot of the conspiracy theorists. Highlight. It's really interesting, right? He's basically all of the, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic tropes rolled up into one guy. If you believe if the emails are obviously to be believed, right? It has been vindication for a lot of things. Pizzagate, all of the quote-unquote conspiracy theorists, right? When we were at Davos or when James O'Keefe was at Davos, he exposed that the people there knew that they were fucking with the atmosphere, the whole, geoengineering, chemtrail stuff, vindication for all of those things, right? What a week, what a weekend, what a week it has been. And I want to roll that in with the post-show stream that I wanted to do Friday night that I couldn't end up doing Friday night after for the conversation with Catherine Watkins to go over some more additional details, which I particularly forgot to put in editing in post. Some extra things that Catherine sent me from things that we were talking about before we actually recorded the conversation. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Make sure you go and watch it. Make sure you go and share it. And thank you very much for tuning in. As always, hopefully I'll have a good few conversations coming up in the future. Hopefully I'll have a good few events to go to as well. There's an event that Catherine mentioned at the end of February that Public Child Protection Wales do, so hopefully maybe I'll see some of you guys there. So I'll have some of the bigger sort of protests going on at the moment. There's a big one coming up in Warwick. There's a couple of others coming up in Cardiff, I believe, as well. So I'll be trying to cover as many as I can. I'll keep you guys posted on what I can and cannot do. But anyway, getting straight into today, because speaking of conspiracy theories, speaking of these things that are more particularly pertinent to what's going on in Britain in particular, right, and Europe as a whole, it is just been the ethnic cleansing and genocide by replacement of native European populations. There's no other way to put it, right? That's what's been occurring as a result of immigration and as a result of the pushing towards one side, towards one particular sect of a population, the native population, pushing all of the things that are going to result in the slow elimination from the gene pool, and then massively ramping up those people from outside who come in to replace them. And it has been nothing less than a genocide by replacement, because it's not been something that's been, in any way organic. It's part of a concerted effort to stab in the back of our political establishment, stabbing us in the back and twisting the knife untold number of times at this point. And you wonder why people are so angry. It's been going on, about 80 years, maybe even longer, depending on who you ask, right? So what's happened recently, though, which is possibly the most important thing to talk about with regards to this, is now left-wing leaders, in particular in Europe, it seems, are just completely throwing the mask off. They realize that the mask is done. They're not getting anywhere with the mask anymore. It's pointless keeping it on, right? It's pointless keeping the mask on. So now they're just openly coming out and saying essentially that we need to do away with our populations because they don't vote correctly. They're not going to vote for us. And so we need to get rid of all of them and replace them with people who will vote for us. In this instance, people who are a little bit smarter than them, right? A little bit smarter than them. So they're going to war with reality. And there's other groups around the world who we bemoan as stupid and all of this stuff, who will actually see reality for what it is, however, and understand understand how they can game this system, right? Think of people from other areas of the world, in particular Muslim groups, that want to continue to open the door to immigration because they want to bring in more and more of the people in order to expand the caliphate, because they know the greatest weapon that they have is the woman's womb, right? So the Spanish far-left leaders, and this isn't Spanish far-left leaders, but all of the far-left leaders in the world will take advantage of this massively, because it's massive appealing voting blocks. Meanwhile, their native populations are dying because they're not hitting their replacement birth rates, and also you're trying to get them out of the gene pool anyway because you're repeatedly trying to stab them in the back. Everything that's being done is being done to their detriment. As a result, they're not voting for you, aside from the brief little, this relatively can be quite large amounts of people in quite certain areas, such as Caerphilly, for example. You had the Plaid candidate, Plaid being just an extension of Labour, even worse extension of Labour, right, in Wales. And, he had about, in the Caerphilly by-election, I think it was about 45 or so percent, 44, 45% of the vote. And obviously first past the post means that he has essentially 100% of that seat, right? That seat, that Caerphilly by-election, is now being represented by a minority of the population, and the majority didn't actually want him, right? So that's the first past the post thing. But they're bringing this massive voting blocks. They're like, oh, you'll vote for us, right? You'll vote for us, until they get to the point where they are so big that they don't even need to vote for you anymore to expand their power. They'll just elect one of their own. And as a result, then, the far-left politician is going to be the last person that ends up being culled down by their own sword. The people that they were supposed to represent and the people that they went to war with on behalf of the people then that came and cut their own head off have long been, have long either fled or been completely enslaved, if you will, essentially. Enslaved to the system, enslaved to the taxes, and enslaved to having nowhere else that they can go, right? And having no recourse because guns have been taken away. They can't arm themselves in any meaningful way and form an organized militia between themselves to actually take back control, right? Which is obviously then how civil wars happen, which is obviously something you always want to avoid. So when in the face of this threat, we have to ask ourselves, what do we do? But for the longest time, this is the biggest thing now, where, again, lies and lies and lies and lies, and how to discern lie from truth, because the best lies married to a kernel of truth. They're now just throwing the mask off. We've been told that time and time again, the replacement of native Europeans and the agenda to replace them has been nothing less than conspiracy, right? Or nothing more than conspiracy. Sorry, nothing more than conspiracy. Anybody that says it, that there's a replacement of white Europeans, for example, or replacement of white people in Britain, replacement of the British people, are they just racist? They're just xenophobic? They're just crackpots? They shouldn't be listened to, right? And if you want to go around and firebomb their house and firebomb their car, threaten their relatives, say you're going to rape and kill all their relatives, and maybe even make good on some of those, then the government and the police will turn a blind eye, right? Because they're politically inconvenient to us. The leader of the Spanish far left in this instance has really encapsulated the thought process now behind a lot of these people, right? A woman by the name of Irene. Where's her name? Irene Montero. She's apparently a psychologist, feminist, mother of 3, member of the European Parliament for Podemos, at Podemos. Me for them, mother, and them for me. And she has the gay flag and the trans flag in her bio, at least according to this person who posted her a screenshot of her profile in the comment section of this post. I'm not sure if it might have changed since then, but you have an idea of who we're dealing with. We're dealing with the exact kind of person that Orwell warned us about, essentially. Remember, he said that in chapter 1 of the book, that the biggest swallowers of slogans and the biggest noses out of unorthodoxy with young women in particular. This is what you see now. This is what you're seeing. And at an event, she said she's in favor of replacing problematic Spanish people with foreigners to literally alter voting dynamics. Remember I talked about, it was one of the representatives out in America that said she needed illegal migrants, illegal aliens for redistricting purposes, right? It's just completely, this has been going on for a long time. It's just people don't want to see it and don't want to call it out for what it is for some reason, because again, they're scared of the labels and all of this stuff, which is why this is a threat to this is a threat to everything that you hold. This is a threat to not only you, but your future generations as well. And that's what you should be thinking about. If you're so scared of being called racist that you would sacrifice them on that Baal pyre, then I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. She says, I hope for the replacement theory. I hope we can sweep this country of fascists and racists with immigrants, whatever their skin color, whether Chinese, black, or brown. I think that the subtitles actually have a bit of a glitch in this, a humorous glitch at one point, and it says brown-eyed, which is a bit weird, right? Maybe she did say it. Who knows? Maybe a contempt for people disguised behind her empathy is on full display. Who knows? Maybe she just thinks people won't notice. But this is the clip. I'll leave this clip play for you now. This is just possibly, I think, the most mask off that really we have ever seen one of these people in terms of the intent, right, to genocide Spanish people who don't vote correctly. And in fact, we got a clip later from France. France's far left seem to be following in very similar footsteps.
Quiero pedirles a las personas migrantes y racializadas que por favor no nos dejen solas con tanto facha. Y claro que sí queremos que voten. Claro que sí, hemos conseguido papeles, regularización ya, y ahora vamos a por la nacionalidad o a cambiar la ley para que puedan votar, por supuesto. Ojalá, teoría del reemplazo, ojalá podamos barrer de fachas y de racistas este país con gente migrante, con gente trabajadora. Claro que yo quiero que haya reemplazo, reemplazo de fachas, reemplazo de racistas, reemplazo de vividores, y que lo podamos hacer con la gente trabajadora de este país. Tenga el color de la piel que tenga, sea china, negra, marrona, con todas compañeras las gentes trabajadoras de este país. Quiero pedirles...
So you're seeing the globalist sentiments on full display. You're seeing the globalist sentiments on full display, where right at the end, towards the end of that speech, before she said, comrades, where is it? I'm just trying to find the bit of the clip. Comrades, the working people of this country has always tried to appease to the working people of this country. Meanwhile, the Antifa goons, they seem to spend all of their times usually high on drugs and whatever else, taking over once prominent, good established businesses like Ricky Hatton's gym, for example, and really not doing anything much with their time. Much of productivity anyway and contribution to society. Their whole thing is that they want to tear down the society, right? So they be working people, but they want to tear down the society which apparently they are working for. No, working this just meaning revolutionary. So I think by working people they mean revolutionary, right? And this is part of this wider globalist revolution. So I'm just going to bring this apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just trying to adjust my seat a little bit so that I can bring myself on in the frame a little bit better. There we are. Sorry, because I got on my preview screen back here. I'm just going to play the video again, but I'll translate it for those, or I'll read the translation, read the subtitles for those of you who are listening, not watching, if you're on Spotify or whatever. I want to ask you, migrants and radicalized people, please don't leave us alone with so many right-wingers. And of course, we do want them to vote. Of course, we have achieved papers, regularization already, and now we are going for the nationality or to change the law so they can vote. Of course, I hope the replacement theory. Hopefully we can sweep of right-wingers and racists of this country with migrant people, with hard-working people. Of course, I want there to be a replacement. Replacement of right-wingers, replacement of racists, replacement of scroungers. And that, we could do it with the working people of this country. Whatever skin color you have, whether it's black, Chinese, brown-eyed, all comrades, the working people of this country. So those are her remarks, right? The really thing I don't get is she mentioned the working people. One of the biggest grievances that people have is a lot of these people come over simply because of the big benefit system that we have, simply because there's so many incentives to come over, and they outright flaunt in our faces, the money that they get for not doing anything, right? Meanwhile, it's usually these right-wingers that she's bemoaning that are holding a lot of industries together. They're the ones going to work every day, paying the tax, all of these things, right? Think of people that I know. I spoke with Joe Marsh, self-employed painter and decorator, Steve Laws, self-employed painter, I think he said in his Liam Tufts interview, just regular working man. I know plenty of people who are these right-wingers that she calls scroungers and all of this stuff that are, struggling to do it, making their own business and stuff like that. Electricians, other kinds of paint and decorating, all of this stuff. A lot of the work that goes unseen, right? But it's being done by usually by good men, right? Usually good, strong men. Usually, they are apparently the scroungers. But the the Somalis committing all the fraud in Minnesota, right? All of the other foreign nationals are coming over here and are claiming benefits in disproportionate numbers. Right? They are the hardworking people, apparently. No, they're not hardworking. It's the case of they want the votes. They want the votes, and they'll use any adjective or adverb or whatever else to sell you on this idea, to sell you that diversity is a strength, immigration is all this good stuff, right? To get you to go along with your own replacement. To get you to go along with your own replacement. And they'll do this by keeping you scared with labels and all of this stuff. It's time to cast off any fear of labels. Because the thing is with, 1984, for example, and thought crime, it's impossible to run from thought crime forever. So even if you're one of these people that don't want to say anything because you're scared of labels, but you still think the same way, make no mistake, they'll nose it out eventually. They'll nose it out eventually. So there's little point at this point to staying, scared in that little cocoon of labels and all of this stuff. It's going to come for you anyway. It might just be a little bit later. By that point, your society would have been lost. So these are the people. It is war, right? It is still a war of ideas. Ultimately, I still think, hopefully, we can rescue our societies via democratic means. Nobody wants, any kind of open conflict or anything like that, any kind of civil war and all of this stuff. Nobody wants that. But people also don't realize the magnitude now of the solutions that are going to be required to also avoid that. There's no solution to these problems where you're going to make everybody happy. So we need to cast off that notion. You need to cast off that notion. There's no kumbaya solution to these fucking problems. Right? Ultimately, you've heard here that the far left leaders in this instance have taken advantage, and they've been taking advantage for long, long times, of foreign voting blocs. They've literally sold out their native people to foreigners for the vote. So that's going to mean that those foreign voting blocs need to be removed. Right? It doesn't matter necessarily whether they're good people or bad people or whatever. They need to be removed. In a just system, they wouldn't be here. In a just system that the British people wanted, for the British people, in the homeland of the British people called Britain, never would have been here. It was the government that sold them out. Time and time and time and time and time again. It's not the fault of any of those people necessarily. A lot of them that have been loaded into the gun without knowing, right? I get that. But there is not going to come a solution to these problems. Not to mention that the demographic problem is a problem in and of itself, right? Because humans are inherently tribal. But, there's not going to be any real solution to this without the mass repatriation of people and essentially hitting a reset. Essentially hitting a reset on all of the damage that has been done. If a bathtub is filling and the plug hole is in and it's overflowing onto the floor, what's the first thing you do, right? You turn off the tap. Then you unplug. You either unplug the water or you turn off the tap first. Either one of those things, right? You don't first go for the mop. You don't first go for the mop to start mopping up the floor before you stop the problem of the overflowing water. And that means we need to turn off the tap. We need to stop people from coming in. We need to open the plug hole. Let a lot of people out. All right. And that's going to come whether they want to or not, unfortunately. And then we can start going and mopping up the rest of it that's overflowed. And then at the end of it, you have a bathtub. It's empty and you can use again. And who knows? I don't think there should be any talk about this at this point in time because we're facing a genocidal threat. Who knows? Maybe a few generations in the future? Maybe, just maybe, things could be tried again. A good few generations in the future. Not in any of our lifetimes, and probably not in any of your children's or your grandchildren's lifetimes. Right? I think the scars from this have run so deep that odds are you'll never get that. And I can understand why. We've seen our politicians will game this and use it for their own advantage. So could a politician in the future, no matter what side of the political aisle they fall on, ever really be trusted with this kind of stuff? I don't know. But like America at the moment, You know, where they're saying, if you self-deport now and you save us the trouble, you don't try to skirt the law, you show respect for us, and you try to do things, you come back in the right way, then maybe we can see a hearing and maybe you can actually become an American citizen, right? That's maybe something that America can do. Britain can't do that. Make no mistake about it. Certainly at this point in time anyway. Britain could never, ever, ever do that without the mass repatriations that are going to come first, because it's already too dense. It's already far, far, far too dense. In fact, somebody put this, I haven't got it up on here. I'll see if I can find it a bit quick. Somebody put this up on X. It was if the US had the population density of the UK. So if the US had the population density of the UK, according to Callum, goes by a CAD secretary on X, he put this up on X, saying if the US had the population density of England, it would have 4 billion people. Let that sink in for a moment. US currently has about 350 million people. So not even, what, like 10% of that? So 10% of that would be 400 million, right? And already they're having these talks about, you know, mass deportations, normalization of terms like remigration. You're coming from political activists in Britain that have normalized that term, right? If you don't think Britain is full, let that stat sink in for a moment. That in order for the US to match England in terms of population density, that would mean it would have a population of 4 billion people. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. So none of that fantasy of like maybe we could try again in the future is going to happen unless this problem of population density is solved and solved pronto. And that's why, whether you like it or not, remigration is going to be necessary. It's going to be necessary. It's England today. It's Wales and all other areas tomorrow. So I talked about my conversation with Joe Marsh. Spain, to give you a little bit of extra context, they have now, the plan, or have already, I'm not sure when this section of this article was posted. It was mentioned in France24.com on the 27th of January, so about 5 days ago. Spain to regularize 500,000 undocumented migrants. Obviously, that's the new term we're using, right? Irregular migration, right? Say it's not breaking the law. It's just outside the norm, right? But it is breaking the law. It's outright breaking the law because you're breaking and entering into a country, right? It's not saying that, it was just irregular entry into your home when somebody broke into your home, right? We call it breaking and entering and trespassing. Right? We don't call it, irregular ingress to a residence. So you see the con that's being pulled here? Undocumented. Oh, it's not illegal. They just don't have their papers. Well, why don't they have their papers? Right? But without the papers, if they enter the country, they're going to be breaking the law. Not to mention, they literally, like you would expect from like a foreign, operations insurgency, if you will. They turn up in rubber dinghies on a boat, rubber dinghies on a beach, and then, pile out and run up the beach as if they're storming the beaches of friggin' Normandy. So for anybody who says it is an invasion, it is absolutely invasion. But Spain's left-wing government approved a Tuesday plan to regularize around 500,000 undocumented migrants by decree, the country's largest break with harsher policies in Europe. So this is the, I'll bring this up on screen. This is the article in question from France 24. Says, Migration Minister Elma cites the beneficiaries would be able to work in any sector, in any part of the country. Presumably then you'd also be including those foreigners in things like national defence, which, as we've seen in the UK, has gone absolutely swimmingly, in any part of the country, and extolled the positive impact of migration. We're talking about estimations, probably more or less The figures may be around 500,000 people. Side said at a news conference after Tuesday's cabinet meeting that we are strengthening a migration model based on human rights, integration, coexistence, compatible with economic growth and social cohesion. Where's the concerns for, Spain, and they're right for I got it confused with Giorgia Meloni in my head. She said she was going to legalize or promote more non-EU migration over the next 3 years, right? I can't remember exactly how much to the tune that it was, but it was still again several 100,000. So the Spanish people for self-determination and the right to organize in their own groups, exercise their own in-group preference, and want to keep the resources and opportunities that they have, which are already very limited anyway, for their own people in their own homeland. Meanwhile, the opportunities could be promoted for these other kinds of people in their own homes, right, in their own homelands, wherever that might be, right? And who are we? Who are we as Europe or Britain to be poaching the best and brightest from all of these other areas in the world where we're continually told that there's, unchecked poverty and starvation and all this stuff, and we need to funnel more things to work to. We're taking the best and brightest from those places, which in theory they could be making a difference to solve these problems, and then we're being told that, we need to shuttle money away via foreign aid and charities and all of this stuff. Absolutely reeks of scam, doesn't it? Absolutely reeks of scam. You'd think these things were being run by Sam Bankman-Fried. Measure will affect those living in Spain for at least 5 months and who applied for international protection before December 31st, 2025. Applicants must have a clean criminal record. The regularization will also apply to their children who already live in Spain. Again, securing the fact then that obviously the problems that we're seeing, a lot of the problems we have in Britain, are coming from multiple generational descendants. So you're laying a strong foundation for the problem, which is probably going to affect Spain then years and years, decades and generations into the future. Why? Why are you doing it? Because you care about the voting bloc. That's right. You care about overthrowing, more than anything, the democratic rights of the Spanish people. That's why. That's why. And that makes perfect sense. Of course, if you're a tyrant, you'd want to do that. Similarly, in a similar vein, this is not just Spain, ladies and gentlemen, who have now thrown the mask off, right? And France, if they allow themselves to go down this route, if they allow themselves to now be subjugated by foreigners again and by their own government, right? We're not liberating them this time. Sorry, I take the piss out of the French a lot. It's just fun to do so. It's fun to make little jabs, I love, Paris and France. Nothing against it. It's a beautiful place. At least it was. Right? We liberated you once, i.e. Britain. We liberated you once. And here you are, again. Now we are under subjugation as well. Far greater threat than anything we faced in World War II. I think it's on you guys to sort your own shit out. And you've seen here that your limp-wristed leaders, right, like Emmanuel Macron, right, poor guy seems to be getting abused by his husband at the moment, poor guy. And he will openly and without any care for the ramifications that it has for his own people, in order to keep political opposition out that seemingly would make some kind of true change, namely Marine Le Pen, certainly much better, right? You say that even if I think I've seen some people on the right say that, Marine Le Pen is not, extreme enough, if you will, right? But you can certainly say it's damn sight better than Macron, and certainly the people that Macron would openly ally with to keep her out, as he did in that last election, where he openly allied with the far-left communists, and then when they won the election, this is quite fitting, right? If they lose, they riot. If they win, they riot. How great is that? How great is that for social cohesion and general dynamics of society? How great is that? But then the leader of the French La France Insoumise, I hope I'm saying that right, Insoumise. Either way, according to the person who posted this, it's the French far-left party, which is easier to say. Jean-Luc Mélenchon, I believe I'm saying that right. I hope I'm saying that right. Now, the clip is slightly cut off, but just before this, he's alleged to have said, we need municipal elections that can demonstrate the ability And then this is where he goes on to talk about the new France. The new France. Remember the rabbi, the president of the European Conference of Rabbis, said about the new Europeans, right? And the anxiety felt by the old Europeans, the literal demographic replacement, right? Making everybody feel like a right goyim, especially with the things that we've read in the Epstein files recently. But now the French far left leader is openly talking about the new France, literally calling it the one of the great replacement. Now, this clip is quite quiet for you, ladies and gentlemen, so I will just see if I can... I'll see if I can put the clip in post, if nothing else. If it's quite quiet, I'll see if I can put the clip in post. This is the French far left leader literally saying that the new France that he has a vision for is the France of the great replacement.
De la capacité de nos listes à incarner la nouvelle France, celle du grand remplacement, celle de la génération qui remplace l'autre parce que c'est comme ça depuis la nuit des temps et que c'est pas parce qu'il y a 10 dingues dans un coin qui tout d'un coup ont peur d'être remplacés par leurs enfants que nous devons partager leur peur.
So that's a small clip. So again, it's quite quiet. So I'll just play it in the background again in my screen just while I read you the subtitle. So again, part of the clip is cut off. So again, I'm not sure what he would have said before this. I'm not really in a place to give these people the benefit of the doubt by any means. I think when he says the France of the great replacement, he 110% means it, and he's an enemy of the French and France as a whole. Right. So here you go. It says the capacity of our lists to embody a new France, that of the great replacement, that of the generation that replaces the other, because it's been like that since the dawn of time. And it's not because there are 10 crazy in a corner who all of a sudden are being replaced by their children, afraid of being replaced by their children, that we must share their fear. Seeming to again hint that it's just a kind of conspiracy. It's 10 people in a corner, right, that are crazy, right? And then trying to again, it is the case. This is what you see. Kernels of truth. Best lies married to a kernel of truth. That of the generation that replaces the other. Yes, that's true. The difference what it is being in modern times is that now you have generations of one distinct group being replaced by generations of multiple other distinct groups that have been brought in, not organically, with the express intent of removing those groups, the prior groups, the native groups, from society. So it's not a case of for example, let's just say, right, a father hands the business over to his son, right? And that is the one generation replacing the other. Similarly, you have next generations of Welsh people that are becoming the next generational leaders and business owners and other kinds of things, right? Whatever route you want to go down. Same thing with English, same thing with Scottish, right? And France and Spain. And that would have been the way that it's been done pretty much all of history. But now you have a concerted effort to make it so that it's not generations of, let's just say, Spanish people replacing the previous generations of Spanish people, maybe so they can retire and live out the rest of the days, whatever else, right? No, now you have the generations of Spanish people being replaced with Africans, being replaced with Syrians, being replaced with Moroccans, being replaced with all manner of these other things, to remove the problematic Spanish from the society in the pursuit of votes. Those two things are nowhere near the same. Past generations of Spanish people that have upheld Spanish traditions and society, passing it down to their future generations, right? For them now to have the dominion over and the responsibility to take care of, not the same as flooding a country with foreigners and then saying, oh, well, they're replacing it. That's just been the way that it has been for all of time. No, one is almost like an extension of familial secession. The other one is an invasion. And previously, governments would have stood against invasion. Now they are facilitating it. And no part of the country is safe. Remember the roving bands of people when the Soviets first took over that would have gone through the countryside, literally with, torches of sticks on fire and would have been burning residences to the ground in the countryside and all of this stuff, right? It pursued the class, the class conflict. This was the proletariat revolution. Nowhere's going to be safe. Any perceived class enemy, in this instance, is more so coming on racial grounds and ethnic background, right? Before it would have been done on class, and this is just another manifestation of the same class thing. It's, Marxism at its core, and then applied to all different other things, right? Across this bound of intersectionality, across the one construct that joins them all, this intersectionality. Labour has drawn up plans, at least according to GB News, to make the countryside, literally saying it now, less white in nationwide diversity drives. So if you live in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, make no mistake, Labour in this instance, but again, the Conservatives have played a large part in this as well, right? Now saying that, oh yeah, we're coming for you as well. You're getting the Africans, you're getting the Somalis, you're getting all these people as well. You're getting the Syrians and the Moroccans and all the people that aren't of your people, just because we say so, because we need to sway your constituency to vote the right way. So, if you live in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, down by the Welsh coast, for example, or up in Rhyl, right, anywhere else, doesn't matter. You're getting this diversity drive whether you like it or not. Apparently, rural officials across England have signed up to plans aimed at making the British countryside more ethnically diverse under a wide-ranging initiative coordinated by the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. Think about it again. Farms would have been one of the biggest things. A farmer passes down the farm and the land and the responsibility of tilling that land and everything that goes along with it, the animals, the ground, etc., to his son or to his family, right? And then they would take it down. You have farms in this country that, 8, 10 plus generations of the family that they've been in, hundreds and hundreds of years, literal roots going back in this land. Literally, again, because they're working the soil of the land. And they now are being subject to some of the harshest penalties that we've seen to unethically, evilly strip that land from them, which they have worked and tilled and had dominion over for potentially hundreds of years. It's disgusting. Just because the government wants votes. Just because the government wants votes. There's nothing they will not do to take away your rights and freedoms, ladies and gentlemen. And your democratic vote is the one thing that you have left that could maybe change the course of things. Maybe. It's disgusting. Protected landscapes across country, including the Chilterns, Cotswolds and Malvern Hills, have adopted diversity targets designed to attract more ethnic minority visitors to areas traditionally dominated by white middle-class Britons. It was just Britons. Just Britons would have been fine, right? But obviously everything then needs to be racially charged and all this stuff. Why do they need to specify white? Why do they need to specify middle class? Because again, it's still the same class construct, still the same thing that Marx was going on about, right? The class inequalities, and that's what the revolution needed to be over. It's just bringing in these additionally racial charged dynamics, right? To sway people one way because they're afraid of the labels, right? So the fact that Britons are white. That just goes without saying. So you could just say middle-class Britons. But no, you need to use white to then get across this narrative also that, anybody can be British. You can have black Britons, which is not a thing, right? But again, the lie became the truth. The lie became the truth. This push follows DEFRA commissioned research warning that Britain's national heritage risks becoming irrelevant as the country grows increasingly multicultural. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because what do people have to care? It's like the socialization element. It's like the socialization element. If something is not somebody's, people will take a lot of care and take care of things that belong to them. So private property is so important. When something becomes public, nobody has the responsibility, individual responsibility of taking care of it. Right? It's your car, your home, all of this stuff, right? People will take more care in keeping their home tidy, right, and clean, and hopefully in good maintenance if they're able to, right? A lot of people, they have to forego repairs on certain things or forego certain things because literally everything's being siphoned away on additional taxes and whatever else, usually they give to these foreign invaders. So a lot of times people want to take care of their own things, to take care of their car and all of this stuff. They have a greater responsibility and want to take care of things that they own themselves, that are their own property, right? If something becomes public, instantly everybody knows that responsibility that's directly on their heads has now been forgone. It's public. That doesn't mean it's me, it's public, right? That's why you go into a public toilet, right? Which can often be, can be useful on sometimes, right? But you go in there and you wonder why it's so stinky and horrible, right? It's because nobody has the individual responsibility to maintain it and clean it. Aside from the one person that goes in there and cleans it in the morning, and then it has the entire footfall of an entire town where nobody's going to be cleaning it. Because it's not their responsibility. So that's instantly what happens when you have the socialization element where everything becomes public. But then when you have this, often cultures don't get along. They're completely oil and water. And you're going to have one culture then which is often going to supersede the other cultures, right? This is what multiculturalism has paved the way for more and more increasing prevalence of Islamic culture more than anything else, at least that I've seen, right? Now, why that is, and certain people who might be behind the scenes pulling the strings and stuff like that, that's a related conversation, but that doesn't change the fact that it seems to be the predominant culture that's being taken over at the moment is Islamic culture, right? And it's being done under the guise of multiculturalism, right? But eventually, things continue to go in the way they go, and that's just going to supersede British culture. British culture will become irrelevant because there'll be no British culture. There'll be no people here to celebrate it. There'll be no British people here, and the foreigners who come here are not going to have attachment to British culture. In many instances, because of the things that they've been told about colonialism and their own grievances and stuff like that, they're going to be perfectly happy to see British culture completely eradicated. They would perceive it as in their interest to do so. But again, if they're going to now be coming for all of these other places, in Chilterns, engagement programs have been developed specifically to target Muslim communities in nearby Luton. Recruitment drives will prioritise increasing workforce diversity, while promotional materials will feature ethnic minority individuals translated in multiple community languages. It's just more of the same. It's everything that's happened in the big cities now, but being translated over to the rural areas. So one thing that has definitely rung true my conversation with John Carr, which is an amazing conversation, by the way. You should really go down and watch it if you haven't done so already. He said, if it can happen in London, if it can happen in Birmingham, in our biggest cities, it can happen in our smallest towns and hamlets. And it will happen in our smallest towns and hamlets. It'll happen in our countryside areas as well. And something needs to be done. Something needs to be done. Make no mistake, it's on us, ladies and gentlemen. It's on us to understand the problem that we are in, and just it's still coming down to winning hearts and minds at the moment. This is why I think it's easy to get black-pilled, right? It's easy to get black-pilled. But there's just more and more hearts and minds that need to be won. Ultimately, the only advantage that regular people have in this instance are the numbers. And it just matters on winning more and more hearts and minds every single day, which is why you should be sharing this video. If you want to support the show, then make sure you head on down to the members areas and stuff like that. Or if you have a little bit of spare crypto lying around and want to put it in my tip jar, then head on over to Rumble and put it in my tip jar. Thank you ever so much. But this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Have a look at this. Have a look at this as one example. Where is it? I won't bother recropping it. I can't be bothered. This is the map. If you set it to white, for example, I don't know why I put it on Saundersfoot in particular, but so have a look at this. You see all of these blue areas? Well, they might as well be giant red with big bullseye targets. Right? Make no mistake. Government has their eye on them, whether you live in any one of these areas in Wales, for example, where you still see right now is fluctuating sort of around 97%, right? In a lot of these areas, aside from the big cities, like where you have like Cardiff, about 79%. You have 85% in Newport. So again, these areas have been hit particularly, hard, it seems. Swansea, still not quite as bad, but again, some areas of Swansea, very, very bad. Even these other areas as well. So it's happening particularly in England at the moment. So looking at these areas up here, in sort of like up in the north, is probably where I think some of these areas that we were talking about before. But all of these areas where you see this dark blue, they might as well have big, big, big red targets on their back. So if you live in any one of these areas, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you take into account that the government has put a massive target on your back, whether you like it or not. If you don't want your community to go the same way, I don't think these maps are accurate, like I've said. If you don't want it to go the same way as London and all of these other areas where you will be made a foreigner in your own home because you'll simply be made a minority in your own home, then make sure you start taking this seriously. Ladies and gentlemen. You can expect more of things like this. So this was one instance that happened recently, which put me in the mind of what happened when I talked about the Islamic Centre and Mosque that was planning to go up in Abergavenny, for example. Again, very, very small, quaint Welsh town. An Islamic Centre in London, right, where a lot of this problem is a lot more entrenched, seems like it's not really that much of a problem. It's only phone cases, only they're Hezbollah phone cases. So again, you have many of these institutions that, like I said, be massively pushing this radicalization to expand the caliphate, to enslave or kill every single one of us, right? The non-Muslims, right? The dhimmi, right? They've been caught selling Hezbollah, phone case Hezbollah, registered terrorist organization, by the way, prescribed terrorist organization. So, yeah, not good. Not good. I imagine we'll be seeing some of these similar phone cases supporting groups like Hamas and other groups like that coming out of the Islamic Center in the old library in Abergavenny very soon. So if you're residing in this area and watching that, then maybe take this as a possible precedent. Maybe take this as a possible precedent and understand you got a lot worse things coming. So, yeah, I advise you take understand the people, whoever they were, young kids, I would imagine, young people. It seems that they're the ones that are more cottoning onto this at the moment. The ones that were spray painting on the side of that building, no mosque, no masjid, all of this stuff. They're the ones that understand. They're the ones that understand where this is going. This is one small thing. Oh, it's just phone cases. Yeah, but what does that tell you about the person that has that phone case? What does that tell you about the institution that's distributing those phone cases? What does it tell you about their teachings? What does that tell you about the things that they're trying to promote? That people will disbelieve their eyes and still go along with the PC programming. It's unreal. So the Islamic Center of England faced fresh scrutiny from the Charity Commission after it was found to be selling merchandise glorifying Hezbollah and the Iranian regime at a public event on its premises. Wouldn't have a problem with this, ladies and gentlemen. British wouldn't have a problem with this if there was no such thing as the Islamic Center of England. Just bear that in mind. The registered charity, situated in the prosperous northwest London neighbourhood of Maida Vale, hosted what it called a community bazaar on December 14th last year. The centre promoted a gathering as a vibrant space for cultural interaction and the exchange of knowledge and experiences and the strengthening of national and religious identity. That's fantastic. Vibrant space for cultural interaction, the exchange of knowledge and experiences. I find that hilarious. Is that what's going on over in the Middle East right now? Remember when October the 7th happened? That's what people think about it and all things like that. Not necessarily talk about that, but one thing you can say is that Hezbollah, when that happened, right, however, how it happened, right, but when that happened, Hezbollah straight away rockets over into Israel, right? So is that what we're talking about? Is that what we're talking about when we're talking about exchange of knowledge and experiences? Are they sharing their rocket making materials and manuals with us? Are they sharing the Al Qaeda training manual that Aqsa Ruda had on him? I can only imagine that that's what it is, because that's the kind of national and religious identity that they want to strengthen, and it's completely contrary to us. It's completely contrary to us, so it needs to be dealt with. It needs to be dealt with. But a lot of people see this and think, oh, he's just Islamophobic, he's just this, it's just that. Well, I'm like, why are they selling Hezbollah phone cases? Why are we seeing people on the streets are openly sympathetic to regimes that would actively love it if our countries fell to dust and they were able to take them over? Right? I don't care. Call me whatever you want. I don't care. Then it gets even better, ladies and gentlemen. It gets even, not so much better, but a lot worse, actually. Let's talk about this Afghanistan national who's 39 years old. This was published yesterday in the Mail. Charged with kidnap, rape, and sexual assault after women attacked. An Afghan man by the name of Najibullah Arab, literally that's his name, Najibullah Arab, just as British as you and me, ladies and gentlemen, 39, is accused of kidnapping and raping a woman near Mabley Way in Wantage, Oxfordshire, on Tuesday. He has also been charged with the sexual assault of a woman on Cane Lane, nearby Grove on January 2021. January 21st, sorry. January 21. When news outlets fluctuate between first and then just the number for the date. I hate it so much. Because I am, barely literate. Arab, who is an Afghan. It's not funny. But imagine this. This is in a newspaper, a British newspaper in... in 2026, Arab is an Afghan national. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? Currently lives in Grove. He has been remanded in police custody and will appear at High Wycombe Magistrates Court on Monday. Police previously said the victim of the Mabley Way attack, a woman in her late teens, was walking alone at around 11:15 p.m. when she was approached by a stranger. And this is the thing now, Crowborough have been very vocal at the moment on how the influx of people into their community massively affected them. They're having to say to people, don't go outside. Don't go outside. This is why. This is why, because if you walk your dog, like your Wayne Broadhurst, you walk your dog, you'll get viciously stabbed to death. About 16 times Wayne Broadhurst got stabbed, a disgusting Afghan invader, right? And you get this woman now being attacked and raped 11:15 at night. People say, oh, there's not a problem. Oh, that's just scaremongering. Yeah, tell that to them. Tell that to Wayne Broadhurst. But oh, wait, you can't because he's dead. And he was walking in the middle of the day. The man led her to a nearby area, an area behind Marbley Way, where he allegedly raped her before fleeing the scene on a black bike. The Crane Lane assault occurred at approximately 9:30. Is it 9:30? My cursor's in the way. Yeah, 9:30 p.m. when a woman in her late 20s was approached by a lone man. The suspect followed her and sexually interacted her after a brief interaction. Every single day. Every single fucking day. And you'd be wise to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that graphic which I keep sharing from Restore Britain. I'll just see if I can find it a moment. It's not coming up for some reason. I've got it saved somewhere, but you know the graph I'm on about. Whereas Afghanistan is squarely at the top. Afghanis are squarely at the top, completely unrivaled in their rape rates. And then you have, like, I think it's Eritrea is the next one, and Algeria and so on. Afghanistan, I think, is like 77.15 or 77.25, something like that per 10,000. Absolutely nuts when per 10,000 then you have British is 6.5. So yeah, absolutely nuts. But then I'm just going to let this next clip speaks for itself. It's truly hilarious because you have, I think this is from Italy, 2 Italian women in this instance interviewing for this show, whatever it is. I'm not sure where these groups are from. They're migrants from somewhere. And they're literally saying, we are right to use knives to accomplish what we want to, right? They're saying that, if we're not given the opportunities that we feel we deserve or that we feel we need or whatever, well, we have a right to resort to knives. We have a right to steal and threaten and kill people, right? This is just how they think. I think it's just truly hilarious at this point because I can only imagine. I could be wrong, right? But given the way that women usually vote and the way that women usually think on all of these things, I can't imagine that there's going to be some kind of weird battle they're having on in their head when they hear this, right? To juxtapose, right? To double think their way out of this, noses out of unorthodoxy, being like diversity is our strength, all of this stuff, and they often, on part of the feminist, their maternal instinct running wild with this towards this globalist baby, if you will, right? And then this globalist baby then saying that, oh yeah, well, it's getting our way, we're gonna stab you, we're gonna slash you.
Abbiamo ragione a usare I coltelli.
Okay, so I'm very pleasantly surprised. This lady by here, the one that absolutely exploded, right? I'll just bring it up on screen again. This lady here on this side, right here. Very, very, very pleasantly surprised. I should have kind of known, really. It seems to be a natural hair color, no masses of like piercings and tattoos everywhere. It seems to be very well presented and all this stuff, right? I should have probably guessed that she's going to come in seemingly like for the interaction, at least very, very based, right? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, someone knocked the door of our house so hard that the house bloody shook. And I thought the thought police were after me, but no, we're all good. We're all good. Yeah, like I said, I probably should have guessed. But, very, very pleasantly surprised. She's saying, oh, yeah, if we don't have the work or whatever, we're here, man. We come into your house, and if you don't give us work, you don't give us whatever we want, right? We're just going to knife you up for it. We're going to knife you up and take it. So, classic invader mentality. You know what I mean? Very, very easy to see invader mentality. And I like what she said. So she said, and I'll just bring it up on screen now, and the guy had a very interesting response, which again really, really doesn't bode well for somebody in his circumstance, where again, sentiment is massively changing towards this. One of the biggest decisions that I think seems to have at least alienated a lot of her support from before, i.e. Maloney, was her decision to again open the doors up massively. I think it's to like 600,000, I think it was, non-EU migrants. So again, presumably bringing in more more of this and championing it, right, for a supposedly right-wing leader. It makes absolutely no sense, right? But she brought this up. She said, have you no shame? In a country where a boy died the other day, killed by a knife at school, in a place where he should be protected, you come here and say with that face, and you are right to use knives, you should be ashamed. And the audience Al-Slabi says, so you don't have to, you had to learn a little bit to keep quiet because you don't know. And that's what he said. So yeah, telling the Italian woman, in this instance in her own country, for rightfully chastising you because just after a child, I believe it was killed at a school. I think she said that he was killed by a knife at school. They say that they have a right to come in and use knives just to take whatever they want. And you need to give them whatever they want so they don't knife you. And people say that it's not an invasion, we're not under siege and all of this stuff. So hope the Italians continue to wake up. I can only hope the Giorgia Meloni continues to reverse course on this, hopefully, because probably just going to see more of this, right? Over the next 3 years, Italy's probably just going to see more and more of this, and some of the other horror stories we've talked about have come out of Italy as well. It's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying. And not to mention, ladies and gentlemen, how insulting it can get as well. How insulting it can get. So this is something that Steve Laws shared. Steve Laws, in fairness, one of the premier voices at the time, many, many years ago, talking about what was going on down at Dover, the illegal migration invasion down at Dover. And, Nigel Farage tried to take credit for it and all of this stuff. Completely disgusting. It was Steve and Active Patriot were two of the biggest voices at the time that were exposing the illegal immigration invasion to Britain. And at that time, obviously, because he was doing a lot of the journalism, a lot of the work on it, he was given a lot of information that a lot of us might not have been privy to. So Rupert Lowe posted a post on X on 1st of February. He's going to go through some of the asylum documentation, and the Home Office has sent me evidence proving that illegal migrants are giving appropriate support to help register for dental services. A travel assistance service is also provided, meaning that illegals are taken to and from their dentist's appointments. Let's be clear about what's happening here. Illegal men from the third world are being provided with dental services whilst taxpaying British men and women are forced to pull out their own teeth because of a lack of service. Steve Laws quote posted this and put a bunch of images on there, which I'm going to bring up on screen now. It's truly shocking, ladies and gentlemen. It makes you wonder, if you can't understand why big business want more illegal migrants, why, again, a lot of the companies said that when they were going to start clamping down on illegal migrants, that means that they would have to adjust their prices because they can't pay their workers slave wages anymore because they can't use slavery. Going back about 5 years, some of these receipts go, these apparently, according to Steve, which I believe, because it literally says it on the receipt, is what our government, it seems, were paying in terms of taxpayers' money for Domino's pizza, right? For these people, for these invaders, right? So you've got one receipt here, which I'll bring up on screen for you in a sec. This is absolutely nuts, ladies and gentlemen. This is truly, truly insane. You've got one, which is a receipt here. You can see that it has 250 original cheese, 25 then of the rest of them. So you have a Meatalicious, Veggie Supreme, Chicken Feast, Pepperoni Passion, right? I'm assuming that this number on the left most is the unit, right? I can only assume. A total £3,500 on one receipt for Domino's Pizza, dated 3rd of the 11th, 2021. 10th of the 11th, 2021. Seemingly you've got about 95 Veggie Supreme at about £21.99 a pop. 5 Meatalicious 100 original cheese, coming to nearly £2,000. Or £2,000 bill. So the actual order itself came to about 1,898, and then with the VAT on top, literally takes it to a flat £2,000. So seemingly, in 1 week, they've spent over £5,500 on pizza alone, presumably for one set of illegal migrants at this hotel. That's one. That's one example. In fact, I'm just going to bring up Steve's post on full screen, right? Because it'd be a lot easier probably to go through it this way than anything else. You have this next one. I'll just adjust the screen a little bit just to bring it over. These ones here, for Dominos again, sale 1700, 9th of the 10th, 2021. Another one, dated, what seems to be 9th of the 11th or 3rd of the 11th, I can't really tell. It looks like a backwards pound sign, so it's a bit weird there. 1600. 1600 pounds. Then we go to the next one. This receipt, 11th of the 11th. £5,000 balance. 50 meat delicious or whatever it is, and then 50 veggie supreme. Meanwhile, many families are struggling to feed themselves and their children. 136 create your own, giving them the opportunity to create your own now. And then 80 create your own, presumably then at a smaller size. And presumably giving them a discount as well. 10th of October 2021, whoever it was that made this order, the Home Office listed right on there, got a discount, it seems. A discount bringing their bill for this instance to 1,754. That's all around a few weeks. That's all around a few weeks, ladies and gentlemen. It's not like that was, again, just playing devil's advocate. It's not like that was like once a year, right? That was spread out over 4 to 5 years. No, it's about 4 weeks. 4 or 5 weeks that was spread across. And that's your money. That's your money to the tunes of thousands that are being spent on meat pizzas for their foreign voting bloc. A very small portion of their foreign voting bloc, mind you. But they'll take anything that they can get. And they're already extracting it from you by force anyway, because if you decide that I don't want to pay this anymore, you go to prison. So either then you're forced to either go along with it or leave the country, right? Absolutely ridiculous sums of money. We're talking here, again, from all of the receipts, well over 10 grand in this one space of about 4 to 5 weeks. There's no words. And then obviously the dental service, then obviously translation services, then obviously legal aid which they get when they go and rape a fucking woman like the Afghan he done. It's fucking... you wonder why people are so angry? There's one other thing that's going to make people angry as well, ladies and gentlemen. It's when the government consistently continues to lie to them, which is exactly what was done in this instance. This is, I believe, from what I have been told by X, so take it into account, right? But this is from apparently from German state TV. This is apparently from German TV, this one. And if gaslighting were a sport, Western governments, right, particularly European ones, would take on the gold. They'd have to invent a entirely new classification for how good governments are at gaslighting people and how successful they'd be. They'd have to invent a whole new medal classification. Just have a look at this. This is, again, state propaganda versus reality in the same train station. So on the left, you've got a woman being threatened by a white man. Don't actually know what the subtitles are saying, right? Obviously, physically assaulting her, throwing her to the ground, presumably calling her like some kind of slut or whatever. And on the same train station, what appears to be a leery African, where the police are already on their way and presumably won't leave whoever this woman is with the blonde hair alone. These were apparently filmed, according to the person that created this, from the Daily Romania posted it, at the same train station. At the same train station. Truly, like I said in the post where I quote posted this, it's almost like almost everything the government wants you to believe is a lie. Almost everything the government wants you to believe is a lie. So if you think we're not in a struggle, in this instance now, ladies and gentlemen, and the chief architect of our destruction is our own government, well, I don't really know what to tell you. I don't really know what to tell you. They've lied, they cheat, and they've stolen, right? And not in the fun little WWE Eddie Guerrero, what was his tag team name? Oh shit, what was his nickname? Oh, I've forgotten his name. Latino Heat, in the Latino Heat kind of fun kind of way, right? No, this is an attack on us of genocidal proportions, and we should be taking it seriously. And it really shocks me when I hear that many people who would be described as foreigners are actually on more of this same page, and some are actually willing to go and actually state the solution themselves, to the horror of left-wing news anchors, as was the case where we'll finish off today with LBC. An LBC anchor was left in horror, probably needing a safe space, a little bit of milk, and a left-wing communist lullaby to get him off to sleep, when a black caller called in, I believe quite ironically, by the name of Moses, I believe. And this is just fantastic, right? Black caller by the name of Moses calls in and says that black people in the UK need to leave and go back to Africa. Why? Because it's not their land. It's not their country. It's not where they descend from. And the LBC anchor, I don't know his name, but maybe he can have a window seat on his flight to whatever other country you prefer to go to as well, cannot handle it. Can't call him racist, can't call him xenophobic, can't call him any of these things. So he has to then accuse him essentially of being what many would refer to as an Uncle Tom. He has to say he's doing the far right's bidding. This, ladies and gentlemen, is... I'll just let the interaction play. This was nuts. It's nuts that so many from other people around the world, where their human nature is completely still intact, and they inherently know this stuff. But yet the struggle sessions and the generations of indoctrination that have occurred within our own people, to where they hear this and they recoil in terror like somebody is reading Mein Kampf. It's ridiculous.
A full black repatriation. Every single black man, woman and child in the earth goes back to Africa to bring about world peace. Because at the moment, we black people in the West are treated as 400 years ago slave.
So hang on, Moses, you want every black person in the UK to go to Africa?
Yes, because we are descended from Africa. We've never been afforded the right to go back there.
But does every black person want to go and live in Africa?
Well, they may not necessarily want to go and live in Africa, but as a representative of the black community, I would like to say that I will give them what they need, not necessarily what they want.
But Moses, there'll be a lot of black people who consider themselves as British as anyone else, who are British, who contribute a huge amount, who have lived here for many years, potentially many decades. Why should they have to leave their country?
It's not their country, it's the country of the world.
Oh, come on, Moses. You're doing the far right's work for them. Of course it's their country.
Far right.
You are. If you are saying that if you're a black Brit, this isn't your country, you are doing the work of the far right.
Oh, if you acknowledge reality. If you acknowledge reality, you're doing the work of the far right. If you acknowledge that certain people who come from certain areas of the world have certain traits, skin pigmentation, nose shape and size, physiognomy, all of this stuff, height, etc., even down to things like a bone density, bone length, all of these other things, right? So there's distinct things, eye color being obviously another one of them. That there's these distinct things, and they're distinct to people who come from certain areas of the world and not from other areas of the world. And it's a lie to say that those people who come from those areas of the world are of different people who come from different areas of the world just because it's politically convenient to do so. If you say that, you're doing the far right's bidding, especially if you're somebody whom he cannot call, racist, xenophobic, far right, all this stuff. The only thing he can only call him is you can't call a black man far right, because then you'd be saying that he's racist, right? You'd be accused of racism. It's a kind of little fun knot that the leftist narratives have sort of tied their adherents into. In this instance, that maybe people on the nationalist side don't have this because they're just like, yeah, what he's saying is true. He's right. He's right at the end of the day. And it's just acknowledging reality. And again, many people will say that it's not necessarily what they want, but what people want and what do people need and what is, countries and political systems need. Well, again, a lot of the things like that can, because I know good people. I know good people who are not British that have come here and have, they're nothing but good people. But that doesn't change the political reality. Unfortunately, that doesn't change the reality of the state of affairs. That's unfortunate. I don't like it. Right? But ultimately, it matters is what's needed. It's what's needed. And you're going to have this discussion. You're going to have this unrest. You're going to have this conflict, verbal at the moment, but it always has the potential to spill into other things as well, which nobody wants. As long as this is not rectified. Until this is rectified, which is like what I was saying before, which I don't think Britain can do. But like in America, for example, where they're saying right now, look, if you leave, if you respect our rules and you leave of your own accord, right, via like CBP1, voluntary deportation, essentially, and you give it some time, you come back through the legal way, and you pass everything through the legal way by our standards, then you come back. And then you'll be accepted. I understand why Americans want that and will be okay with that. Still think their attitudes have massively changed, right, because of the way that their immigration system has been exploited. And they've seen in the 4 years of Biden, they saw a population increase that was absolutely ridiculous, right? The level of people that were coming in across those 4 years, they had about probably good 8 years or maybe even a decade more of immigration, legally and illegal, to the UK, right? So a truly, truly disgusting thing that happened there. Obviously, much bigger country, you have much bigger potential for problems. But the biggest thing is, again, they can't say to these people, we can just let it go and just pretend that it didn't happen, right? This is why in Britain, we can't just see things the way that they are now, see that that's okay and just let everything stand, because everything that's already been done, the damage has been done. And if it stays that way, it's like it's not allowed to heal. It's not allowed to heal. So there does need to be, and again, conversations as to how it's done, how far it goes, all of this stuff. They can be had once the ball gets rolling. They can be had once the ball gets rolling. Biggest thing is you're always going to have these conversations. You're always going to have these political debates, this unrest, this conflict, whilst this is still allowed to go on. It's never going to go away. It's never going to go away. Because the foreigners who have come here, wherever they may come from, and that have been allowed to reside here, even if they've done nothing else wrong, against the native people's will, are always going to be a reminder in the hearts and the minds of those native people of the betrayal that they had, of the betrayal that they endured. And whilst we're in a state now where it's currently getting to the point where it's a genocidal magnitude, you can't blame people for getting extremely angry and not really giving a fuck how this problem is solved, just that it's solved. And it's a dangerous point for people to get to. You don't want people to get to that point. You want it to be resolved as peacefully as you can. The biggest thing is here is that in many instances you're seeing here, the biggest obstacle that we have is our own people a lot of the time. Not necessarily just foreigners that feel they can stake a claim to something that they don't own, which is an act of invasion, but the ones who facilitate it and the ones who for political reason will cheer it and go along with it and promote it. Those are the ones then that we have to take, will have their own day in court afterwards, I suppose, because it's been nothing less than treason. It's quite telling when others from elsewhere in the world understand that, and many of our own don't. Tremendous op by the government. And that'll do it for today. Thank you very much for watching and listening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed it. Pardon me. Wrong Speak will be coming back soon, so stay tuned for that. I've had to let it fall by the wayside a little bit, but it will be coming back very, very soon. But yeah, you take care. If you want to obviously support the show, you've got many ways to do it down below. Greatly appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hope you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are. Diolch yn fawr. Thanks for watching. Hwyl fawr. See you next time. And you take very good care of yourselves now. Godspeed.